Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I realised I hadn't done my TBR for the month, so for the month of July, so today's the day to do my TBR. I realise it's all sunny outside and it's summer and I'm probably supposed to be reading or in the mood to read kind of very summery books, but actually I'm kind of in the mood for thrillers and a bit of horror. So in June, I read pretty much exclusively Queer Lit because it was Pride Month and Queer Lit Month. I pretty much read mostly Queer Lit anyway, so it wasn't really a departure for me. But in July, I thought I've got a lot of books on my TBR that are like thrillers, that, like I said, are horrors that aren't necessarily Queer Lit based. So I almost want to get through all of those in July. And then August for me here in the lovely Brighton in the UK, it's kind of like our Pride Month because our Pride Parade happens in August. So I tend to dedicate August for myself to Queer Lit as well. But what I want to do this year is starting in August for the remainder of the year, and I'm actually kind of thinking for a year, but I'm going to do 6 months first, is I want to read exclusively kind of queer lit, LGBTQIA, diverse, on the spectrum literature. So I basically only want to read books that have some form of diversity in them for a number of reasons. One, personal reasons, because I enjoy reading those books. Two, because I've found so many amazing books recently that I want to showcase and spotlight and talk to you all about, and I think are amazing and I think are great for diversity and queer rep. And three, just because I think it'll be kind of a cool thing to do for the rest of the year. So that's my plan. So a lot of these books, I felt like, oh, that doesn't really fit into those plans, so I'm gonna have to get through them. But like I said, I'm also kind of in a thriller mood, so let me talk to you about what I'm gonna read in July. So the first one, this one, I think I showed this on a haul. Poor little broken cover. This is what you get when you buy secondhand, but this is called The Taste of Bloodwine, and it's basically a kind of a vampire series, a little bit in the vein of Anne Rice. So you've got three sisters, the Neville sisters, and it's 1924 or 1923 in London, and it's very hedonistic, and I love that era, that kind of 1920s era, I love that. And then you've got one of the sisters, Charlotte, who's a bit discontented with the kind of hedonistic scene. She wants to be back in Cambridge, and then I believe she may or may not meet a vampire, and blood, lust, and other things may ensue. So it sounds really good. This is the first in a series. If I enjoy this, I'm going to get the other books in the series, hopefully with a complete cover. But yeah, so this one I'm looking forward to. Then the next one, this is the Devils Mixtape. I got this recently as well. This just sounds dark, but really good. Sorry, the light. So this one is about a girl who has been convicted for murder, and she starts to write letters to her sister, to her younger sister. Apparently they're really disturbing, really creepy, very much kind of a thriller, suspense, horror-y kind of novel. Exactly what I'm in the mood for in the sunshine. So this sounds really good. Excited about this one. Then the next one, Romeo and Juliet and Vampires. Come on, this just sounds awesome. So it's Romeo and Juliet, but with vampires. Yeah, I can't wait to read this and see what that's like. Then the next one, this is a classic horror novel, and this is Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked This Way Comes. I have not read this one yet, which is a shame because it really is a classic horror novel, and it's about, I believe, two boys at a carnival. Kind of horror ensues. I love anything carnivalesque. I loved American Horror Story Freak Show, and I think most people didn't like that series, but I really liked it. I like anything kind of set in a creepy carnival setting, so I'm hoping this will be good. A lot of people say it is good. Originally I was going to save this for Halloween, but I have a lot of lovely witchy things to come for Halloween and lovely witchy queer things to come for Halloween, so I've already got a ton of books that are going to be on my kind of October TBR, so I thought, why not read this one now, seeing as I'm in the mood for this kind of thing. And the next one, speaking of witches, is this over here. It's Melissa de la Cruz, and it's Witches of the East End. I've actually seen the TV series that was made of this. So I think I've only seen, I don't know if they only made one season or I've only seen the first season. And it's about a family of witches, a mother and the three girls. I think it's very, I suppose it's quite reminiscent of Charmed, reminiscent of Practical Magic, and there's kind of romance and magic and you know, kind of a bit of a whodunit as well. I really enjoyed the TV program, so I'm interested to see what the kind of the book, because I think this is definitely the TV tie-in cover. So I'm kind of interested to see what the book is like compared to the TV series. But I enjoyed it, and it's witches, so yeah. Then the next one, speaking of witches, is this one over here. This is Hex, and I believe this is based on like a myth in this town where centuries ago, a woman was killed and convicted as a witch, and her mouth was sewn up, and there may be some present-day haunting going on of the town. So again, sounds really good. Sounds like it's going to be wonderfully creepy. Sounds like it's right up my alley. Then the next one, so We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix. Last October, I read 3 of his books. Was it 3? Yeah, I read My Best Friend's Exorcism, which is awesome, set in the 80s. I read Horror Store. Did I read 3? Maybe I only read 2. But I also have this one, and I think I probably bought it like right after October because I had enjoyed the other books so much. And it's one of those things where you go, oh yeah, it's an October read, and then you kind of put it away, and now it's been sitting on my shelf for almost a year. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna read it. It is basically about a rock band who kind of sell their souls to the devil for fame and fortune. And I like that concept, and I love rock bands. So this sounds awesome. Can't wait to get my hands on that. Well, get my eyes into it, let's say. Then the next one, again, this was one of these books I bought, and I thought, oh, it'll be great for October, and then I haven't read it, and I kind of really want to read it. And it's Angela Carter's Bloody Chamber. And I believe it's a short story collection, and it's like fairy tales that are kind of twisted a little bit. I believe from a slightly feminist point of view. They're kind of, yeah, they're not the fairy tales you tell small children. They're twisted, crazy, wonderful versions of fairy tales. So that sounds good. And Angela Carter tends to be pretty good as well. Then we've got this one. This is a recent charity shop find, which I was so excited about. It's Sarah Hall's Madame Zero. And again, this is a short story collection. And these tales, again, are supposed to be quite twisted, quite dark. Do think there's some queer content in here, you know, focusing on women, but it's supposed to be really spooky, kind of dark stories, which sounds fantastic. And I couldn't believe I found that in a charity shop after actually having seen it and having it sort of in my wish list to buy. And the next one, this definitely has queer content, is this one over here. This is Sarah Waters, The Night Watch. Now, I love Sarah Waters. And this, I believe, is... Okay, you've basically got a story of 4 Londoners, and they kind of have secrets. They all have 4 different personalities, and their lives kind of intertwine, and there's kind of secrets and lies. So I thought that this kind of ties in with the whole thriller horror thing I've got going this month. Plus, again, I've had this one for quite a while. I found this in a charity shop as well. I found a whole bunch of Sarah Waters in charity shop, which is fantastic. And I kind of want to get to it because it's one I definitely haven't read. Sounds really good. A lot of people say this is very, very good. So I'm looking forward to that one. Then the next one is Reconstructing Amelia. This one just sounds really fascinating. So you've got a mother who gets a phone call at work one day saying she needs to pick her daughter up from school because she's been not expelled. I think she's actually just been suspended from school. And by the time she's busy, I think she's a lawyer, it takes her a while to get to the school. And by the time she gets to the school, she sees there's sort of police and all sorts of people standing around. She says, what happened? And it turns out that her daughter committed suicide and she fell from one of the buildings. However, her mother is convinced that this may not have been suicide. So this is kind of delving into... Again, that sort of secret and lies things, that thriller aspect of, was this actually suicide or did something else happen? Reconstructing Amelia, who's the daughter, her life, and trying to work out exactly what was going on in her life that would either make her commit suicide or make someone want to hurt her. Sounds really good. Really looking forward to that one. Next one is The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. This is about a real-life murder of a young actress in Hollywood who it was dubbed the Black Dahlia murders, and I believe it's still not solved to this day, and this is kind of the fictionalized book about the detectives and about this Black Dahlia murder. So that sounds like it could be really interesting. Then the next one, staying with the theme black, is Black Eyed Susans. Again, this is another thriller. So this focus on the main character is the sole survivor of a serial killer. And I believe she's found in a grave with sort of dead victims, and she's the only one that's alive. And at the time, her testimony was part of what put the killer away. But now there seems to be doubts whether or not this person actually did it or not. And it's kind of going back and delving back into the story and into the kind of what happened at the time to see whether or not this person is actually guilty of committing these, they dubbed them the Black-Eyed Susans, so these Black-Eyed Susan murders. Then the next one, we had Black, Black and Dark. Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Now, Gillian Flynn's probably best known for Gone Girl. I have read the book, I've seen the film, I love both. I thought it was really good. She writes a great thriller. And this one, it focuses on a woman whose whose brother is in jail for murdering her entire family except her. So he allegedly murdered her mother and her 3 sisters. And again, this is like years later where she was young when this happened. And again, part of her testimony, so it's a little bit like Black-Eyed Susan's, her testimony was what put her brother away. And now she gets visited by the Innocence Project, one of the lawyers saying, they're not convinced that her brother actually did it. And it's reconstructing that story. It's going back at seeing if that testimony at the time, was she coached? Was it true? Did she see what she saw? Kind of really unpicking and unraveling this murder that happened sort of 20 years or whatever it was previously, and to see, you know, have they got the right person in jail for it as well? So again, that sounds really good. And Gillian Flynn, I tend to trust her with thrillers, so hopefully we're good. And then the last one I've got here is Little Monsters by Cara Thomas. I think I saw, who did I see? Oh, Kayla from Books and Lala was talking about this. And this is kind of billed like a Pretty Little Liars type of book, which I'm a Pretty Little Liars fanatic. I remember watching the entire series back to back, probably in a couple of weeks. I was staying up until 2 a.m. to see the next episode. I love Pretty Little Liars. So this book being billed like a kind of a Pretty Little Liars thriller mystery thing about a girl who moves to a new town, and she makes friends with 2 other girls. And kind of, yeah, there's something happens. One of the girls goes missing. I think she becomes a suspect. The police are trying to work out what happened to this girl. And it's kind of like a thriller mystery. Again, lies. What's actually going on below the surface? Are people telling the truth? Do they really know each other? Kind of scenario. Sounds really good. So that's it. So that is my TBR for July. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you have any great thrillers, particularly kind of any great thrillers that maybe feature queer characters as well, have queer content, have diverse content in them. Please let me know. So that would be good for the coming months. But yeah, I'll let you know what I think of these books in my wrap-ups. But thank you for watching, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye-bye.